Okay, welcome back to the second video in Chapter 11. I'm back on page 2. I just want to write here, review on your own. But I have given you some questions to practice on. But if you need to, the best place to look is your introductory, although there are examples in the text. Okay, to page 3. Declining balance. So this is more depreciation in earlier years when the asset has the greatest productive capacity. Okay, so you could think of a car. As soon as you drive it off the lot, what happens depreciation-wise? The value plummets, right? That's kind of like declining balance. It'll go a little bit for the rest of the time. But sometimes cars are better. The mileage gives you a better picture of how it's depreciating. Okay, so that one could go either way. If you had machinery, eventually it's going to wear down and get not as efficient. You could use this also on it. So the depreciation expense per year is 2 over the life of the asset times the cost minus accumulated depreciation. Remember that that's the book value or carrying value. So this one changes because every year cost minus accumulated depreciation gets smaller. So at the beginning there is no accumulated depreciation, so you get a bigger number every year. This gets bigger, so this gets smaller, and therefore this whole thing is smaller. So you can try it out, and again prorate by number of months, just like a straight line. Okay, now let's look at units of production. This is best with varied usage, where usage is not dependent on time, right? This one and straight line are dependent on time. It's over the life. So this is really good when you have machinery that runs with different batch sizes every day. Like it'll be used for 2 weeks straight, and then it won't be used for 3, and then it'll be used for, so many more, and so on. Now, do not prorate by the months, because we don't care about the number of months with units of production. It's all based on how much the machine ran. So you can do it in units, you can do it in hours, you can do it like a car, how many kilometers was it driven, things like that. Okay? So, first you calculate the depreciation expense per unit. And that unit could be actually units produced, kilometers driven, hours the machine ran, and so on. Now, if you've got a machine that runs 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, pretty much every day of the year, do you need to use this, units of production, or could you use straight line? Well, it's the same amount all the time, so you could use straight line. So this all varies depending on the situation. And as I said, in your examples, you guys, or problems, will tell you. Okay, so you calculate depreciation per kilometer. Then, to find depreciation expense per year, you take this number, the depreciation expense per unit, times so many kilometers. Let's say this worked out to 10 cents. That'd be 10 cents times 30,000 kilometers. However much you drove in a year. Okay? Okay, so review these methods on your own. And I've given you some questions to do with them, so you can see if you're understanding it. Okay, so that's regular property, plant, and equipment. Obviously, land is not depreciated, so you don't do anything for land. Now we're going to add on natural resources. So I don't know if you covered this in intro, but I'll again, and we'll do an example. So natural resources are depleted or depreciated. They're used up over time as they are removed. Depletion is calculated using an activity method such as units of production. So you'll see how we do it. The depletion charge is initially debited to inventory and credited to accumulated depletion. Okay? When the resource is sold, inventory is credited, cost of goods sold is debited. If equipment's useful life is linked to the life of the resource, it also is amortized using units of production method. Obligations to reclaim the land due to development are charged to an asset retirement obligation, ARO, under ASPE, liability for site restoration under IFRS. They are the same thing, it's just two different names. If the obligation is due to production, then this is written to inventory as units produced. Okay? So, 315 is really an intro to this. In 16, you do it in more detail because you're looking at the liability side. Okay? So, I'm going to give you an example, and the second part of it, I'm going to split it in. I didn't plan for it, so if you can grab an extra blank piece of paper or be ready on the back, that'll be great. Okay. Co Limited. Purchased property on which oil has been discovered. Wells on this property produced 21,500 barrels of oil during the current year, and 12,000 barrels were sold at an average of $85 per barrel, which is lower now. Total oil resources of this property are estimated to be 500,000 barrels. So barrels are our units. Now, the purchase required an immediate payment of $5,000, and I want you to add a sentence here, okay? The value of the land itself is $2 million. Now, development costs, 250, were incurred before any oil was produced. And Coronado follows a policy of capitalizing these pre-production costs. This means they're going to put them in a T account for the property, oil wells. In addition, Coronado is required to clean up all the way from drilling, pay the costs of reconditioning the land, and everything when it's abandoned. It's estimated that the present value of the obligation at the time of the lease for cleanup and reconditioning for existing wells is $130,000. Okay, so I want to just draw in here. Reclaiming the land alone goes to an ARO account, or liability site restoration. If the obligation is due to production, then it's written to inventory as units produced. Okay, so you're either going to go to asset retirement obligation, I'm just going to keep using that one, or written to inventory. Okay, now the wording isn't very clear in the questions. Okay, I've found that the material I've seen for the CPA, because of course they bring this up again in court, and other textbooks make it very clear whether it's going to production or going to the land. Okay, this one doesn't. So I want to show you, notice and reconditioning for the existing wells. Now When I read that, but remember I've read like hundreds of these questions, cleanup and reconditioning for existing wells doesn't seem to be the land. So it seems to come from production. So basically, is what is damaging the land is a clear example. No, I'm going to go with this. What seems to be damaging site, not just the land, the thing that's got to be cleaned up, is sticking a well in there and drilling for oil. Pulling the stuff, that drill operating all the time, that's going to be that 330,000. Okay? If it was reconditioning the land instead of production. Well, imagine this, okay? You're gonna, the world still needs coal, apparently. That's for your generation to worry about. Okay, the world needs coal, so you decided to make a coal mine. Okay? Well, the coal's far in there. Even get to the coal and do production, right, which is getting the coal out and selling it, you have to build a site, dig into the side of the mountain or whatever it is. Sorry, I haven't been to a coal mine, except the old one near Drumheller. They give you a little tour of it. It's kind of neat. Anyway, sorry, that's beside the point. What was I saying? Yes, so the cost to restore the face of the mountain as much as refill it in and all that, that would be one cost, and it would go to ARO. So if you had a coal mine digging into the mountain, that would be ARO. But once you're in the mountain and you're pulling more, so pulling the coal out is also wrecking the site, right? That would go to inventory. The cost to fix all of that. Okay? So there's a difference between the two. Now, I will tell you, brief exercise 11.9. They put it to ARO. It is really clear. I have read 4 questions from this text, and it's not clear what you're being asked to do. So you guys, on your exam, on the first page, because this is the only place I can add stuff, and I say take a picture, right, the little reminder on the very front page, or the second page once you click in. I will also tell you on question 4, or whatever it is, I'll either say use ARO or don't use ARO. Okay? I'll try and pick one where it's clear. I'll try if I can edit it and put it into the question. But this Wiley Plus I find is a little harder to use than something like Connect. So watch for, take a picture, and then under that part I'll tell you on question 4, whatever the question is, use AR or don't, because unless I can get a good question or change the wording, you wouldn't know. From this, I'd say, because they said clean up the waste and debris from drilling and reconditioning the land, that would tell me, oh, maybe that's ARO. Now, in real life, I'd know, right? Or I'd be able to estimate it. But this, they also only gave me one number. They would have to give me 2 to use ARO. Or just use ARO and no production. Okay? So, yes, it's a little confusing. Let's end this and then go on to the question. and then grab an extra piece of paper.